Well, hello and welcome to our science series. The whole purpose behind this is, many of our 4-Hers are out of school right now doing some e-learning, maybe stuck at home, need some things to do, and what better way to, be involved in 4-H and do some science experiments at home. This activity that we're going to do today is called Oobleck. Many of you may have made Oobleck before. It goes by other names as well. But today we're going to have a little fun. All the things that we're going to do today, you should be able to have these at home and have ready access to them. So to do this experiment for you to prep, the easiest thing for you is to go ahead and measure out everything before you start. But we're going to start with some cornstarch, which you should probably have in your baking cabinet. We're going to have some water that you can get out of the faucet, and we're also going to have some food coloring. So if you decorate any cupcakes or cookies or those things, you probably have some of that at home. And then you're also going to need either a zippy bag or a bowl, either one. Today we're going to make it in the zippy bag just to make it a little less mess and have a little more fun with it. Okay, so I didn't really tell you the purpose behind what Oobleck is first, but Oobleck is a non-Newtonian fluid. And that's going to be what we're going to talk about here in our wrap-up. But what we consider a non-Newtonian fluid has properties both of a solid and a liquid. But first, let's start with our science experiment. So what I'm going to do is I have my plastic bag, and I'm going to take 1 cup of cornstarch, and I'm going to place that in there. So again, you can either do this in a plastic Ziploc bag, or you can do it in a bowl or another container. The Ziploc bag just allows it all to be in there, and it doesn't spill all over the counter. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 3rd cup of water, and I'm just going to pour it right into the bag. Now, I'm not going to use the food coloring yet. So what you want to do, after you've poured the water into there, is you want to make sure you seal your bag very well. Because you don't want this dumping out on the floor and somebody yelling that you ruined the carpet or the floor. Which it won't do that, by the way, but it's just a mess you have to clean up. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently squeeze the bag together and get that mixture starting to mix up. So you can see here that we're starting to mix that up. You can see that some of the cornstarch in there is starting to come together. And as you see, if you push it real hard, it starts to go together. One of the things that sometimes you have to do with this is you may need to add a little more water. As you can see, if you can look in the bag here, we got a pretty big white clump and our water is already all absorbed, which that sometimes happens. As you know, as scientists, we got to play with our experiments a little bit. So I'm going to add just a little more water to this. So what I'm going to do is just make sure it's sitting flat on the table. Open that bag up, pour just a tick more water in there, and then I'm going to seal it back up. And let's see what that does to it. So it should begin to absorb just a little more. And as you can tell, I didn't add quite enough water, so we're just going to put just a little more in there. So at this point, it should be starting to get pretty hard to move around a little bit. And as you'll see, we have in the bag, we have a little bit of liquid and we have a little bit of solid. So at this point, you can go ahead, and this is where you can be a little creative with that food coloring. So today I'm going to use a little bit of green because we're all 4-Hers and we love the color green, right? So we're going to open up that food coloring, and you don't want to go too crazy. So you only want to put a couple drops in there. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3 drops of food coloring and see where we get then. Okay? So I'm just going to set that to the side here. Remember to seal your bag back up because you don't want to make a mess. And you're going to kind of move that around just a little bit. And you got to go slow because remember, we talked about this being a non-Newtonian fluid. So the faster you move it, the harder the material is going to get. So you want to go slow so that it keeps that more liquid state, okay? So as we can see, we're starting to to get that there. And sometimes when you do this in a bag, it gets stuck in the corner. That's why the bowl tends to work a little easier than what this does. So as you can see, we're starting to, our fluid, our non-Newtonian fluid, is starting to change just a little bit in color. You can use any kind of food coloring you want. That's not going to affect anything. It's just going to have a different colors. You know, in here we could add a little bit of yellow, we could add a little bit of blue, and see what colors you get. So then you can also talk a little bit about how colors are made and how you mix the three primary colors together. So as you see here, and I'm going to lay this flat for you to talk about that. So as you can see, it's running a little bit, okay? So the non-Newtonian fluids kind of breaks our three laws of, you know, it's either a solid, liquid, or gas. So in our science lesson today, you'll kind of see that non-Newtonian fluids features two different ones. They can either be a solid or a liquid. So here you can kind of see that move back a little bit, but if I hit it real hard, I'm going to flip it over, you can see that instantly turns to a solid. But here you can still see some of that running out. And so that it's partially liquid. So if I go real slow, you can see that the bag still moves like it's a liquid. But again, if you punch it real hard, and it's a solid surface, so you know it gets hard. So that's part of our science lesson for today about non-Newtonian fluids. So just some questions for you to think about when you're doing this science experiment and reflecting, or think about some of the properties of solids, liquids, and gases. What are those? And then talk about the Oobleck that we just made. What are the properties of it? And then what things happened as we made the Oobleck? Now, if we reflect back, we had to add a little bit of water because we didn't have quite enough water in our experiment because it got hard as we were making it. So, that also goes into, again, science. You probably have to add a little more water. You get to experiment a little bit. And we hope that you enjoyed today's science lesson from us, and give us some feedback on the video and let us know what you made. Show us a picture of, did you make some green Oobleck? Did you make blue? Did you make red? Share those pictures with us on our Facebook page. Thanks for joining us today.